everyone. Thanks for sorry for the
Real.
tardiness.
You know what? It's unacceptable, Louis. I'm joking with you, buddy. Thanks for being on, man.
I was just over at the Keller Williams Palos Verdes on their team meeting doing exactly this. So I just went a little bit over. You know, everyone has a lot of good questions.
Well, dude, I'm glad you're doing this because that was practice. This is the real deal right here.
That's right. Amen.
Let me just pull up kind of a little PDF that we can share.
We got 36 offices for you, Louis, including Palos Verdes.
Sure. All right, let me just pull up the PDF and we'll just dive right into it, guys.
Yep, let's go right into it, my friend. Guys, some of you asked for the video on shooting video for Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Mahogany, I just put it up there on the chat, so grab that one. That way you can learn all about that one. It was a great video we did yesterday.
Yeah, so everyone, I have a CPA firm in the city of Los Alamitos. We primarily deal with business owners and real estate. That's primarily all we deal with. And as Paul can attest, we have quite a few team leaders. Actually, we have a lot of team leaders and a lot of top producing teams and solo agents as clients. So we're very involved within the Keller Williams community, and I'm happy to jump on and at the very least point people in the right direction with all this stuff. So let's take a look at the first round of PPP loans, just so you guys can see where the money went and how quickly the money left. $350 billion was allocated. The average funding was $206,000. And I'm sure there's a lot of bad press right now for the Lakers and Ruth's Chris and getting funding when really they shouldn't be. But the first round of funding, 1.7 applications were funded, and all that money went away in 2 weeks. Polynesia, is this easy to see on your screen, or is this really small?
It's not bad. I can see it. Guys, okay, everybody else is the audience. Can you guys all see it? Just to get heads a nod. Yes, no? Yeah, everybody's fine, buddy.
Okay, good. Cool. So 2 weeks. Now we're in a situation where the second round, there's $310 billion allocated, and they're projected. Some people are saying that this money is going to go away by the end of this week, but based on how quickly $350 billion went, this is expected to last 1.7 weeks. So the PPP loan is the holy grail in all of this stimulus. Not the EIDL loan, the EIDL loan. No, not that. The PPP loan is what you want to go for. So just to show you guys an example of how much you would qualify for, this is a common situation. You know, if you're a solo agent, contractor, or if you have an LLC that's just a regular LLC, you're going to take your total income for the year. Assume you made $75,000, and you're going to go through your tax deductible expenses, your cell phone, meals, etc., etc. And let's assume that when it's all said and done, I spent $25,975 here. On that $75,000, after my expenses, cell phone, mileage, transaction coordinator, etc., I have a net taxable profit of $49,025. So you're going to take that net taxable profit of $49,025 and you divide that by 12, and that gives you your monthly average take-home pay. Okay. So $49,025 divided by 12, I have a monthly average take-home pay of $4,085 per month. I then take that $4,085 and I multiply it by 2.5, which is $10,214. That's essentially what I would qualify for. So this situation here, this will be more than that EIDL loan of $10,000 that they originally advertised. I'd get $214 more. So that's essentially the calculation. Income minus expenses, you get your net taxable profit. You divide your net taxable profit by 12, and then you multiply it by 2.5. As long as you get this money and you're using it to compensate yourself, pay business rent, business desk rent, and business utilities, which is including cell phones and internet, as long as you use this money between now and June 30th, this loan gets converted to a grant and it's forgiven. You do not need to pay the money back. It's your money to keep. But it's very important that you're using it to compensate yourself, using it for business rent, and also business utilities. And underwriting is very streamlined here. It's a very, very streamlined application process. The hard part is finding banks that are accepting applications. You get the money, and between June 30th, as long as you spend it correctly, it's yours to keep. And it is not taxable, which is even better. It's not taxable income at the federal level. California right now, all of us, we live in California. California, it will be taxable income for California, but that's just right now. California likely will change their language so that it is not taxable anymore. So,
Louis, there's a question in regards.
Yeah, let's answer some questions.
Yep.
Specifically for this, Jody's asking, can it be used for April retroactively?
I wouldn't be too concerned right now in terms of this whole when I'm using it and all in this deadline of June 30th. They're already talking about extending the deadline through 9/30. So retroactive, I wouldn't be too concerned about it. The main concern right now is finding a bank or an online bank that's accepting applications. So
And one
as long as you get the money and you're paying yourself, paying business rent and paying business utilities, that's the big thing. Is that's all they're looking for. In terms of this whole timeline they have, a lot of that's going to change. Great question though.
A lot of people are asking, how, because, people have heard a lot about the PPP and also EIDL. People want to know, how do these things work together? So are they mutually exclusive? Do we apply for all of them? How does all that work together?
Yeah, so if you've already applied for the EIDL, unfortunately the EIDL is not going as advertised. Originally it was like, apply for this, you get $10,000, and it's like, it sounded really good, but at most I'm hearing people the most successful person I heard got $1,000, Paul, to answer your question, from the EIDL. The $10,000, if you read the fine print, it's $1,000 per employee. So someone that had 10 employees, a small business, a restaurant, for example, if they applied, yeah, they very likely got the full $10,000. But at most, we're hearing $1,000. So, a big difference between someone getting $10,214 in this example here from the PPP loan and a measly $1,000, where in California, $1,000, what does that pay for?
Well, one of the things that I did was, I got on applying for the EIDLs and the PPPs. I was pretty good about it, meaning that, the people that were really on it were like, up at midnight when it first came out and they were submitting their applications. These things, a lot of times it feels like first in line, first to be served. So I was a bit discouraged because I wasn't first in line. I wish I had been. But that being said, my EIDL money came in last week and I did get more than $1,000. I put in several applications because I've got several companies. And so, for example, Morris Enterprises is my, I call it like a personal services company. It's what I run everything through. I put an application in for that. I got $1,000 because there's one employee, it's me. Now, some of the market centers we put in for, they have 7, 8 employees. So we did get, the highest we got was $9,000, but we did get $9,000 for one EIDL application. Now the PPP, all of ours are submitted, but we haven't received any money on them yet. The money ran out, but then the new stimulus bill was signed, so we're back in line on that. And I was told by some people that they applied late for EIDL and still got the money. So, Louis, if you haven't done anything at all, do you just kick yourself, or you go, let's go all in and apply for these?
I would go on and apply, Paul, just because this will very likely, they're already talking about a third round, Paul. So, this money is going to very likely be gone I mean, based off of how fast the first money went, it'll be gone in a week and a half, and they're already talking about a third round. And I think there's going to be a fourth round, fifth round, sixth round. So when you get your money, it's just a matter of time. But the biggest thing is getting some sort of application in, so that way you are in line.
And Roxanne, you know, I saw Roxanne in the chat box, you know, very similar experience to what I was hearing. And she said that she applied online right alongside with her girlfriend, and her girlfriend got both PPP and EIDL money, and she did not get any. It's discouraging. You know, I was talking to my friends who are business owners, and they had gotten PPP money and EIDL money. I was pretty good about getting the applications in. Up until last week, I had gotten nothing, and I just felt like, oh, you know, this is terrible. But then when I first started getting, you know, we got the EIDL money in 3 separate sort of tranches, you know, and when we first got our little bit of it, I was like, okay, at least I see something where, you know, some of my activity is working. So I felt better about that. But don't be discouraged. Put your applications in. A lot of people haven't put them in at all. Sometimes it's not first come, first serve. It's hard for me to say how it's being done, but I definitely know people that applied way later for EIDL money and got it.
Yeah. We have somewhere around 250 business owners as clients, Paul. And in terms of PPP loan funding, only one client actually got money.
Wow.
So we're us included. We're right there. We're right in there with you. So let's just should we take a couple more questions, or should we kind of? I have the calculation if you have a legal entity, and then also there's a cool.
Can you show page 3 of this? A few people are asking, well, what does page 3 look like?
Okay, so this is just a calculation for if you have an S corporation. If you have an S corporation, it's all based off of payroll. So you take your total payroll for the PPP loan, take your total payroll. Let's assume you had $55,000 in payroll for 2019, assuming. You divide the $55,000 by 12. Your average monthly payroll is $4,583, and then you multiply your monthly average payroll by 2.5 or 250%. So someone where there's total payroll, very likely just paying yourself in this situation some sort of reasonable salary of $55,000, you would be qualified for $11,458, and that's the calculation there in a nutshell for S corporations. A little bit easier, completely off of payroll. Just to answer a couple of questions. They're primarily going off of, if you're in this situation where you don't have a legal entity, if you're a solo agent contractor or you have a regular LLC, they're only going off of a P&L. But some banks, like for instance, Chase Bank and also PayPal, they're asking for draft copies of your 2019 tax returns. Not what you actually filed, but a draft. So it's a bank by bank basis on terms of, do you need your 2019 tax return? For Wells Fargo, no. Bank of America, no. But for Chase, one of the big 3, they are asking for drafts. So just something to be aware of. If they ask you for the tax return, then you need to get it. So it's just a matter of talking with your accountant and getting that done. This is something, I apologize for the title. I'm just using the same template. Should we answer a couple more questions before we transition into this? I'm going to go over a sick leave credit here.
Let's answer some questions because people have such great questions. One little tip: if you're on your phone, you can actually go on your phone and expand that So you can open it up so you can read it a little better. That's one thing. Also, you know, I talk to so many people. You know, I'll tell you who the PPP worked best for of all the people that I spoke to, and they got their money right away, was somebody that worked with a smaller bank in Century City. And so they were able to have their banker actually go through everything with them. Now, interestingly, I split the difference, and I did worse on both sides of it because some of my accounts were still with Wells Fargo, so I got that big bank treatment, and basically you can't get anybody on the phone to help you. I moved a bunch of my accounts to a fabulous bank, which I would have recommended to everybody prior to this. It's an online bank. They're a lot less expensive. The service was excellent. When we got to the PPP, they just said, "Oh, sorry, we don't know how to do that." And I'm like,
Sure.
wait a minute, like that's not an answer. That's not a good answer. We moved 80% of our business accounts over to you because you were going to service them. I don't know how to do PPP. That's not acceptable. So they were telling my people that. I got on the phone and told them that myself, and it did not move them. I thought, oh, well, like, hey, we'll threaten to pull the accounts. Like, sorry, do what you got to do. So we went out and we looked for banks that were accepting new people so that we could, a lot of banks just said, hey, most banks that we have so many applications, we can barely handle our current accounts. We're not going to let you open an account today and then start working with you. But we did find a couple of banks that did that. And then we're also hoping that Wells Fargo will come through for us on the PPP money, but it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, the same experiences as what we're hearing from our clients. Paul, I was up. I had the inside scoop as an accountant in terms of knowing how to navigate all this. I was up 5 a.m. on April 3rd.
Yes.
Applying on Bank of America's website. And here we are, April 28th, and all I've gotten from Bank of America has been thank you for applying, and we'll get to you when we can.
Yeah.
Ed, Louis, can we talk really quick about PUA? A lot of questions on PUA. And hold on, let me open it up here.
Yeah, PUA is this whole unemployment.
Yeah,
that we're supposed to qualify for.
You got it. Can you explain what that is and what you know of it, if you know anything in regards to that?
So up until this whole Corona situation, we don't practice unemployment very much, just because a lot of our clients aren't even eligible for it as business owners, or don't really utilize it. But up until recently, you couldn't even apply for unemployment if you were a realtor, a contractor realtor. But that's changed now. Any contractor can apply for unemployment. I've only a couple people that have applied actually had success with getting it. A lot of people are complaining about, like, they apply and then there's been problems. This PUA is going to be up to another $600. It's a brand new system in place. It sounds great. EIDL sounded great. PPP loan sounded really great at the beginning of the month, but it just has not gone very well. So we'll see how this goes. But you can't get unemployment and also get the PPP loan, just to make sure everyone understands that. So if you apply for PPP, if you're this example over here where you made $75,000 and you're qualified for PPP of $10,000, $10,214, you can't get this free PPP money and also supplement this with unemployment. You're going to run into some problems there. So just understand you can't get both.
That makes sense, man. So that covered a whole bunch.
Great question. And then I saw another question too. What happens if I have an S corporation and I don't take a salary? I'm just taking draws or distributions.
Yep.
If that's the situation, your accountant's pretty damn aggressive for him telling you not to take any type of salary. I like aggressive accountants. That's good. You're saving money on not paying yourself a salary, thousands of dollars. So now you have to pretty much maybe do a calculation here. Okay, if I file a payroll tax return, now I have to pay all the payroll taxes that I'm otherwise saving. How much of the payroll taxes in relation to the PPP loan I'm going to qualify for? Doesn't make sense.
All right, makes sense, man. Let's see what other questions we have out there.
Yeah, other questions, then we'll get into this payroll credit that, it's not getting I'm not seeing too much traction on this payroll credit, but it's really cool. It's something that exists and something to take advantage of.
All right, now here's a common question.
Yeah.
You answered it. As a realtor, will it make sense to apply for both the PUA and the PPP, or just one, or which one should we apply for?
So if you really wanna be aggressive here, essentially what you could do, there's nothing stopping you from doing it. It's just a matter of if they close the loophole later, you could get unemployment right now up until you get funded for the PPP loan. And then once you get funded for the PPP loan, pull the plug on unemployment. You can do that. There's nothing stopping you. There's no language that's stopping you from that. It's just you can't continue to get unemployment and also get funding from the PPP loan and expect to get both. Can't do that.
That's a good question. I was texting with my folks because I saw in the chat box somebody said, "Hey, will you tell us what bank you were working with so that we can avoid that problem?" If you're not already with them, you probably have already avoided the problem, but it was Nano Bank. I'll just go ahead and say their name. They had been great up to the point where we needed the PPP money. And then we applied more than one time at different places in an attempt to try and get the money. So what I hear you saying, Louis, is even if you can't accept unemployment dollars and PUA funding, that you could go ahead and try for both, but then, you just see what happens, right? So I can apply. Is it true? Like, hey, maybe I put a PPP application in at one place. Now I found another one that'll take an application. Can I apply more than one time? I can tell you.
Yeah, that's it. That's a great idea. That's actually something that we're doing right now. We have a Bank of America application. We've also applied through PayPal as well, just because PayPal is accepting applications, and I've been reading that some people are getting funding through PayPal. So that's something to potentially explore. Nick Resendez, Paul, he was saying that he had success with Fundera. I never even heard of Fundera before, but Nick Resendez, I was on a call with the La Mirada's Market Center, and he said Fundera has been really good for them. So that's another option. Fundera, PayPal, Stripe, QuickBooks Online, they're all accepting applications. So why not apply to as many places as possible? That's a good call right there.
That's great. That's great information. I was typing that in as you were saying it, texting back to my people, telling them, those different names.
Another thing that you're eligible for, I just excused some of I use the same template, but just kind of follow along here. Let's just use the same numbers. I made $75,000. I have tax deductible expenses of $25,975. I have a net taxable profit of $49,025. So take those same facts, total income of 75, net taxable of 49 grand. You can take a sick leave credit that's available to us, that us Southern Californian or Californians, we get this because we've had a statewide shutdown. If we lived in a state like Montana, we would not get this. But you take your net taxable profit of $49,025, identify that number, and then you divide that $49,025. You divide it by 260. Okay, you divide it by 260. 260 is 52 weeks in a year. There's 52 weeks in a year, and there's 5 working days per week. So that's where they came up with 260. So if I take this $49,025 and I divide it by 260, I get this average daily take-home pay of $189 a day. I can get I know this says PPP loan. It should not say that. I should say sick leave qualification amount. But this $189, I can multiply it by 10, and I would get 10 days of paid sick leave, a credit of $1,890. That's the math. Your annual salary, your annual net take-home pay, not salary, but your annual net take-home pay, divided by 260, and that's a average monthly take-home pay of $189, and then you get up to 10 days of that daily average compensation credited. So this is going to show up on your 2020 tax return that you're going to file by 4/15/2021. So this is a really cool credit, $2,000 in this situation, a credit that's available to this person, and it's a matter of you bringing it up to your accountant when you file in 2020, saying that I quote unquote took paid sick leave and I want the credit. Those of you who have entities in place, an S corporation, C corporation, or an LLC taxes, an S corporation, C corporation, you get up to $5,000 per employee, including yourself, for up to 10 days of paid sick leave. And this is going to be reported on your Q2 payroll tax returns. And you have until 1/31/2021 to claim this for at least 1/4 of your payroll tax filings. So this is where you want to double dip, is the opportunity to get paid sick leave up to 10 days and also getting the PPP loan. This is where you can double dip.
So, guys, there's a couple of questions here that I think were good. One is that the website keeps on crashing. Yeah, that's normal. So many people applying, it's gonna keep crashing. You guys remember that the same thing was happening when this whole thing started. Websites were crashing, the ones that needed help, where you could get help. So just keep on trying every 30 minutes, every hour. I put up the link up there. So go ahead and use that link, and I'll put it up again, guys. And question for Louis, a question for the new agents. Those agents that just started this year, any help for them?
Yeah, you know, they're going off of for the most part 2019. And in the chat, everyone, I just put our email address for our office and also our office cell phone. So that's in the chat right now. I just put that in there. But if they're going off of net income for 2019. They'll also take a look at January through February 15th. If you just started the business in 2020, they'll take into consideration activity from January through February 15th. But again, they're going off of net income. So if you don't have any net income, you know, really there isn't anything that you'd qualify for in terms of the PPP loan. You may want to try to qualify. You may want to put an application in for the EIDL loan and see if you get $1,000, but that's about it. So if you're newer with just expenses, no income, so there's no net profit, yeah, unfortunately there's really nothing for you outside of maybe $1,000 from the EIDL loan.
Is there a specific link, Louis, that you're sending people to for PUA? I know you guys don't deal with that typically, but
I'm not sure. The PUA, I think they just started applications today. I believe is like just started today.
It's so. Employment Department, you know, I think it's edd.ca.gov. I put the link up there. And then at the very front of that, it'll say unemployment benefits guide, and then you can take a look.
You'd be surprised what you can find just by Googling it. You know, honestly, I didn't know much about PUA, but I knew we'd be talking about it. I just put PUA in Google and I got great summary of it and resources for it right underneath.
Couple good questions in here. Is the PPP loan, is it taking into account your personal credit? No, it's not actually. The collateral who's guaranteeing this loan is actually the SBA, the federal government. So if you have rocky credit or if you don't have any personal collateral, typically that's what they're looking for in a business loan for a small business owner, personal collateral from the business owner, but they're not taking that into account. You'll probably have to give your Paul, do you monitor your credit often or not really?
Well, I belong to one of the credit monitoring services. This is another one of those questions. It's like I have sort of a thing where if you ask me a question, I tell the truth. As
sure.
I use like Credit Karma. So I do have credit monitoring, and when something changes on my credit report, they send me an email and then I don't look at it. So that's the truth. So the truth, I could say, yes, I do monitor my credit, and I could say, no, I don't. They'd both be true a little bit.
Okay. Well, I was asking just because, did you see any credit checks going through when you were applying for all this against your credit? We just applied for PPP and there was no hard credit check on my credit score. So PPP loan, they're not taking into account personal collateral, but they're just asking for your personal social security number as a business owner. But for the EIDL loan, which is through the SBA, the EIDL loan, really outside of the initial pre-approval money that they give you, any further money that you would want to get through there, there's going to be a credit check there, because they're going to utilize personal collateral of the business owner for any money for the EIDL loan outside of the initial pre-approval amount.
And
So
I might be naive on this, but I do believe that there's going to be a bit of a reset like we haven't had before, so that people getting their credit hit, this is not take it to the bank advice at all. But there are some laws right now where jurisdictions are saying you cannot report adverse credit for somebody if they miss a car payment or if they miss a payment during these times.
Sure. I wouldn't be surprised if that went through. But just for the people that are asking about credit checks and stuff like that, it sounds like for you, Paul, and also for us, I can confirm that for the PPP loan, there was no credit check.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I got a. Oh yeah, it was in the chat box. Somebody said that it was the SBA that checked their credit, so that's consistent with what you're saying. Yeah,
that's for the EIDL loan. The EIDL loan has been around for a long time. I have a restaurant. There's a fire in the kitchen burns down. So there's $200,000 in repairs. Insurance only covers $150,000, so I need another $50,000. If you have personal collateral, you can go to the SBA and say, I need, $50,000 to get my business back up and running. You have to prove the disaster, and they would give it to you. It's just there would be a personal guarantee there on that SBA economic disaster loan. It's been around for a long time. It's just become very popular with Corona. Take a couple more questions, you guys, but I think this is really good information, really good answers here.
Yeah, I'm trying to sift through any of these. Like, we had over 150 questions, and obviously we didn't get through all of them. Let me just check to see which ones.
Here's a good one. Can you get PPP and EIDL and have both be forgiven?
That's a good question.
That's a great question. So let's say I applied for PPP. Understand that the PPP loan, the EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan, that $10,000, you would get that if you had 10 employees on payroll. But if it's just you yourself, very likely the most you're going to get is $1,000 through the EIDL loan. So let's assume you applied for the EIDL loan and actually got the full $10,000, just assuming, okay? You got the pre-approval of $10,000 in the grant. When you go to apply for the PPP loan, you have to disclose. It will ask you, did you get any money or did you get approved for any SBA EIDL funding? So if the PPP loan has you qualified for $15,000, but the EIDL, they've already given you 10. When the bank approves you for the $15,000 from the PPP loan, they're just going to give you the difference. Does that make sense? You can't apply for EIDL, get $10,000, and apply for PPP and get another 15 and think you have $25,000 of free money. No, there's going to be a reconciliation in there. PPP will only cover the portion outside of what you didn't get from the EIDL. So for example, if I applied for EIDL, I got $1,000 because it's just me. And then I apply for PPP. PPP says I qualify for $10,000. Well, I've already got the $1,000 from the SBA EIDL. PPP is only going to give you the difference. They're only going to give you $9,000. They're not going to give you the full $10,000. So both of those kind of go together in terms of that advance from the SBA.
I think it's important to, one of the messages here is, before Louis got on, we were talking about taking action on your database. And one of the mistakes people make, including me, is trying to get it right before I get it done. And do your best and send it in. And you can apply for the PPP more than once. Just go for it. And instead of trying to figure out, how do the EIDL and PPP work together? If you had asked me that question, Louis wasn't on As soon as he said it, I'm like, oh yeah, right, I knew that. But before he said it, I'd been like, oh, I don't know. But the thing to do is just apply for them both. It's better to, for example, get more money than you're supposed to get than
Sure.
end up, trying to figure out the programs and getting nothing. Because that's why we're doing these. That's why we're doing these webinars, is to keep our realtors at the absolute top of their game in best practices and getting them government money to the best that we can. If we didn't have this sort of thing going on, if I didn't have this sort of thing as a leader going on, I wouldn't be taking care of myself as well. So being out in front of this and talking about it and getting on here and trying to answer questions and that sort of thing is helping me. As a realtor, you're a leader to your sphere of influence. Consider yourself a leader and get as much information as you can. Even if you just Google PUA and you get the information, you get that information, that's a great talking point when I'm going out to my database. Hey, just checking in, making sure you're okay, then when they respond back, I say, hey, have you heard about the new PUA? There's new stimulus money out. Here's a way, and you can just send them a link. Let them talk to your CPA or check out this link. It's a great touch.
Yeah, that's a great thing that you said that, Paul. And a lot of us that are going through this process as agents can then go on social media and say, hey guys, look, I just went through this process. I just applied for PPP, EIDL, or whatever you're doing, and say it wasn't that hard, or it was hard, or this is my experience. This is what you should be doing. And more importantly, these are the links, right? So keep on sending those. One of my agents, his name is Luis Robledo. He sends out an email once a week on an update on what we should be doing, what we should be looking for, and the changes. And the open ratio on that is close to 80%, which is massive. So guys, just make sure that you're coming from a point of value and contribution and apply what you're learning to those that are around you. That's what Paul was saying. So it would be great to talk to those of us that have PUA questions. Marcy, as much as we wanted to, we don't, Louis isn't a pro at the PUA because they don't do that much, but I can guarantee if you go to the website that I put the link to, it'll give you all the information you need. It's brand new. It just came up today. And the website, some of you say it doesn't show up. Well, that's because it kept on crashing, but I just put up the site once again. And I'll also put up a good article that I found just by Googling it. And it was from ABC. I'll put up the article there as well. Take a look at that. Do we need to cancel our initial UI claim, so our unemployment claim, if you're going to apply for PUA? I don't know that one.
I don't know.
Louis?
I'm not sure. This whole PUA is brand new. I mean, up until unemployment for everyone in this room wasn't even available up until a month ago. So, this is all very new in terms of unemployment stuff. And unfortunately, I just don't know a lot about unemployment.
Yeah.
The big thing is just make sure you pull the plug. Let's say I have there's a couple questions in here. There's some things in this chat that I just want to touch on, just because some people do some of these things, they're running into trouble. Understand that with unemployment, every week, I believe, you have to disclose how much money you made from other sources of income. So let's say you are on unemployment as a realtor, but you also have a job that you're working. You have to disclose that other job income to unemployment, and they do a reconciliation in figuring out if you're eligible for payments for that week or that pay period. So you can't have a day job or some other job that you're making money off of and then apply for unemployment because you're also a realtor and think that you can have both of those income sources that can supplement. You're going to run into problems there. And don't get the PPP loan or idle money, and it's going to ask you, did you receive any other money, any other compensation? If you get money from those sources, make sure you disclose it or just pull the plug on unemployment. Because if you try to double dip like that, there's systems in place that it's going to flag you, and then you run into problems, and then they can hit you with a false unemployment insurance claim, and that's when it gets really serious. That's when they're knocking on penalties and interest in addition to the principal amount you got that needs to get paid back. So just be careful with trying to get all this money that's available through the stimulus. For us, you know, we're not even playing around with unemployment just because it's a lot to navigate, and we don't want to potentially get unemployment, then have that run into problems with our PPP application that's in process.
All right. So for those, and to wrap this up, we've got 3 minutes, but Louis, I have a question. Everybody applying for PPP, what happens after this whole thing's over? Do we owe some of this money back? How does this work?
So they're already talking, about an additional third round. PPP, I see PPP coming multiple other rounds. The money has to be used by June 30th. Let's say you get funded today. You have until June 30th to use the money correctly. Documentation is going to be everything with how to prove how you spent the money to get it forgiven. So one thing that we're advising people is if you get any EIDL money or any PPP loan money, I would have a separate bank account for that. And I would use that separate bank account for those expenses as well. So a dedicated bank account. So that way it's really easy. You can just give them the bank statement. You can show them that you used it to pay yourself, pay business utilities, pay business rent. They're going to very likely extend the window. Right now, it's between now and June 30th. That's essentially what they're going to look at in terms of how you use the money. But with this continuing, they're talking about extending that window through September 30th. So very likely that window will be extended. If you're someone that's going to apply today and probably won't see money for another month based on other experiences, don't be concerned if you get funded on June 1st and you only have 30 days to spend the money. Very likely they're going to extend the window.
And I think one of the takeaways is that even the experts are, even the experts are kind of muddling their way through this because, this is legislation that's just been passed. And normally when tax legislation is passed, months go by and then the IRS will issue regulations saying this is how this is going to work. And we don't have time for that. So the best thing you can do is just absolutely apply. And, we got a lot of specific questions like, oh, hey, I received some retirement money from CalSTRS, I think was one of the dialogue boxes. And, how does that affect the EIDL? My answer, right? It's good. I got Louis here to, call BS or whatever, but my answer is go ahead and apply for all this stuff. And if it says, are you getting money from other sources? Then you say, oh yes, I am. I'm getting money from CalSTRS and this is how much I'm getting. If they don't ask, you just apply. Be responsive and truthful to the questionnaire that you're answering, but just go for it.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. A lot of people delay. They're like, I'll do it tomorrow, or I won't. I'm not sure how to figure this out. Just go and do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, guys.
Shoot first and ask questions later, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Buddy,
or is that it?
Yeah, I think we've been working on starting these webinars right on time and ending right on time because people are planning their schedules around it. We've had another giant group of participants and really, really appreciate everybody. I'll say it again, a takeaway from this is not only the content, but go back to what Tristan and I were talking about before at the beginning. And when you're going through your database, I do iCare messages in 2 steps. I make it very personal and not like a commercial. So I haven't talked to Louis in a long time, or maybe like Tristan said, I look down, I go, Louis, I don't even remember who that is. Now for me, I'd go, Louis Vasquez, oh, who's that? Right? But I would never say I don't know him because if I saw a photo of Louis, I'd be like, oh, wow, okay, I totally know Louis, yeah. So when I go down and I get down to V and I'm at Louis Vasquez, I send out, hey, Louis, Paul Morris, haven't heard from you in ages. And I was just thinking about you or you say, hey, I'm reconnecting with a bunch of people I'm reconnecting with a bunch of people, reaching out, making sure everybody's okay. You know, hope you and your family are well. And, you know, stay safe. This too shall pass. And I always put like a, you know, some sort of a hopeful message. And then when, instead of sending it all at once, it becomes more of a dialogue. Okay. And then when I was sending out that message together with the helpful piece, I was getting, you know, 50% return on it. Now, when I send it out like an individual message like that, it doesn't have any information. It's just wishing Louis and his family well. I might say in there, if there's anything I can do to help, let me know. Stay safe. This too shall pass. Paul. Now Louis gets that and he goes, oh, wow, that's cool, man. I haven't heard from Paul in ages. You go, hey, Paul, thanks for reaching out. Hope you and your family are well too. You know, da-da-da-da-da. And then that second text message, or that one I have a cut and paste, and I would go out and I would get some of this tax information online and say, hey, Louis, you know, I'm not an expert at this, but, you know, but I just learned there's a new program called the PUI, and here's a link to it. Talk to your CPA or check this out, because I don't want you and your family to be left out from some of this stimulus money. And now you're like a hero on this. And if it's something that just came out just now, this is a reason. I do 30 eye care touches a day, but when I've got something big like this that just came out, this is an excuse for me to do 300. You know, I'll spend most of the day doing the eye care messages on this. And then if there's no news, you know, I go back to my 30.
I love it, dude. What a great way to end it, guys. Just go out and do that. Louis, thanks for being on. You're going to get a lot of messages. I know AJ and Paul are going to email you because a couple of people have specific questions for you. And guys, if you have any questions for Louis that we didn't answer, that he can possibly answer, he did put up his info, and I'll put it up again at the end here at the bottom on, there it is. His email and his phone number are there at the bottom on the chat box. Louis, thanks for being on, dude.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah, but I can give people some direction, guys. It's a good opportunity for us accounts right now to really help people with our knowledge.
Yeah, you don't have to be, this is a good example. You don't have to be an expert to be a leader. Tristan and I are not tax experts for sure, but we're like, hey, join this webinar with Louis. If you're not having a webinar with Louis, just get some online resources, just raise awareness to your database, and you will be the single person that's reaching out to them. Let me ask you, as an agent, has your dentist reached out to you? The answer is some dentists are. Has your, you know, all the different people that take care of you when times are good, have they reached out to you? And the answer is 1 in 10 at best. Be the 1 in 10.
Sure.
I love it, guys. Thanks so much. Have an awesome morning.
All right. Thank you. Thanks again, Tristan. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.